It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry News on this Monday, February 20th, 2023. Coming to you from Bedford County, Virginia. We have a special guest this morning, and we've had all kinds of I've had technical issues on my end that are really strange. I've not seen this before, and I hope that this works out. Anyway, my messenger completely went out, and so at the last minute when I discovered it went out, I sent our guest for today an email with the link, and I see, yes, he does have it now. So my guest is in the house. So we'll get on with things here this morning after just a slight little screw up. Anyway, we do have a little bit of news today, not a whole lot, which we'll get to eventually. Embarkation delay for Serenade of the Seas over the weekend. A warning for Norwegian Prima, and I've got some thoughts about that one. Dover to welcome 5 new ships this year. Disney Magic from New Orleans. And unfortunately, a cruise director has passed away, and a lot more here live at 11. Today is National Cherry Pie Day. That's okay, folks. I'll participate in that one. Maybe a little cherry pie with a scoop of vanilla ice cream. That'd be all right. If you're listening via the podcast, welcome aboard. As always, you can access the podcast via my blog, which is accessadventure.net, or wherever you get your podcast from. Just search for Travel and Cruise Industry News, and up pops the Fat Travel Guy. All right, this weekend, Seattle released their projections for 2023, including 291 cruises with 1.4 million passengers. And right in the middle of all that is my special guest today. He's been here numerous times before. Here's Nate Vallier from Alaska and Yukon Tours. Nate, welcome back to Travel and Cruise Industry News.
Hi, good morning.
So this was, sorry about the screw up with Messenger. I don't know what's happening with Messenger. It just quit sending stuff for me.
It's technology.
Yeah, way over my head. All right, so you're getting ready for what's going to be another hugely successful season in Alaska. You've been doing a lot of work on setting up tours and so forth. So probably the one thing that most people want to do when they go to Alaska is whale watching.
Right.
So let's talk about whale watching today.
Okay. So Juneau is actually the whale watching capital of the world. I don't know if people realize that. There's something about the waters up here that between the rivers and the climate that has such an amazing draw. And in our presentation today, we'll even talk about how they track the whales and know, which is just simply amazing. In my mind, that right now I have friends who are boat captains and naturalists in Hawaii, and they're actually seeing the same whales that are up here down there right now. And it's just amazing to think that these animals can, just be able to navigate, the open sea, back and forth between Hawaii and Alaska. And so, of course, when people whale watch, of course, the big thing people want to do is to see a breach, which is what we've got here. This is in Lynn Canal, which is the stretch of water between Juneau and Skagway. And of course, we do get orcas up here, not quite as frequent as you will in, let's say, Whittier and Seward. So, there is a different type of whale watching depending on where you go. And also, for some reason, down near Vancouver, you get a lot more action. And then here we've got Flame and one of its baby calves, as they're doing a breach, from the water or from one of the whale watching boats.
right, that's one of the boats.
Yeah, that's with Alaska Glory Harbor Marvs. And so what I want to point out is if you look at the front and the back of the boat, not all boat is created equally, especially with some of the different operators. And the ones who use the cruise lines tend to go with much larger vessels. So this one's only 18 passengers, but you'll notice that there's an area on the front of the boat for people to go out as well as the back. And that's important for people to ask, if and when you do book your own independent excursion, is how much room do I have to actually be able to see these whales? And this is a 6-packs. Now, this is what has made Jalen's Alaska and Harbor Marv so popular. Are these boats only typically seat about 6. And you do spend a lot more money because, as you can tell, there's only one naturalist / captain on board. You can see in the front right, and then inside you don't have much room for anyone else. But with these smaller boats, you still have room both up front as well as in the back for you to actually go out and see. And this is one thing that makes, and I laugh at this, when people look at these luxury tours, if you're in a ski boat, they don't have access to the front, just the back. And that's one of the downsides that people, need to do their research and find out, exactly how good is my company. And, you want to make sure you have access to both the front and the back of the boat, just because these whales can be everywhere. They can be in front of you, under you, literally on top of you as we make a comment. And this is the Beacon. This is one of the newest boats in Juneau. This is a 49 passenger catamaran with leather seats and interior. And one thing is, and we highly recommend this if you do go on a whale watch, is keep your camera on high speed shutter, because these whales come up so quick and you really don't have much of a warning. So you do want to be taking a bunch of pictures instead of just waiting for that one. This is inside. It's Alaska Glory Harbor Marv's Juneau Lighthouse Tours. This is the newest boat on the water here in Juneau. Although I think that Alaska Tales and Juneau Tours are coming out with new boats. These guys took a step up by including reclining leather chairs with power ports. They even have cup holders, which is nice. These aren't the bench seats you've seen on some. Really comfortable layout. Only 49 passengers. That's one reason why some of these whale watches aren't all created equal. You're not being shoved into these boats.
My picture of going on a whale watching excursion, not what I just saw in those pictures.
Oh, yeah.
I was expecting a much, sitting on a bench, and
it's not like that anymore. And the cruise lines, again, they use a different vendor. Why, even though they do also use Alaska Galore, which is owned by Harbor Marvs. That's why we tell people, do your research. And another question we get a lot of is, well, can't I see them from the ship? Yes, you can, but they're not that close. It's not the same, because the animals purposely avoid the azipods. They're doing a study right now at University of Alaska Southeast with NOLA, trying to figure out, what exactly, draws the whales in. And they're finding that both the propellers and the azipods give off these ambient sounds that keep them away. Now, this is, if you want to stop here for a second, this is with Juneau Tours and Whale Watch. And I do want to highlight for our non-ambulatory guests, not all boats are created equal. With Juneau Tours and Whale Watch, they do have these smaller boats that seat about 22. But if you notice the back deck, that's a lot easier hop for someone who can't walk very well. We don't have ramps yet for wheelchair access, and that is a downside. Sadly in Alaska, we're just not that friendly for people on scooters and or wheelchairs. They try, but I'm hopeful that there can be some pressure with the city and borough of Juneau to actually install some type of loading device to help people with that. However, even once you get on the boat, you'll notice the door and the box around the door, you still got to step down. And I think it's just a matter of just some time. I hate to say patience, but we'll get there. But sadly, if you're in a wheelchair, you do need to come with a portable type wheelchair and a caregiver. Otherwise, you're going to have a rough time. And hopefully, again, with due time, as the times change, that we can become a little bit more friendly for non-ambulatory guests.
Now, my situation, just looking at that one, I mean, I could get my scooter up, to the boat,
Mm-hmm.
but then I could probably get myself on the boat if there's some place that I can sit down.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that with that lip, maybe getting the scooter on the boat's not going to work.
Yeah, and
that's doable.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, at least.
And the thing is, you also need storage for that scooter while you're on the dock, because, so I can see the docks from where I live, just not my window. But, and I think that's something that just needs to be more, I hate to use the word pressure, but just brought up more, at least with the city assembly, so that they know, hey, this is a need we have, because we are seeing more and more, again, non-ambulatory guests up here. And, again, with time, it'll become better.
Yeah, because we have talked specifically recently. I mean, everybody knows that I'm going to Alaska. I'm probably going to go to Alaska twice this year.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been talking about another one of your tours, which we're not going to spend any time on today, and that's going out to visit the dogs.
Yeah.
At the Mushers farm, or I'm not sure exactly what you call it, but
Mushers Camp. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a situation where, there's a bus that takes you out there.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is I can't get to the bus without taking my scooter, and they doesn't have a way for me to. I could get on the bus possibly, but I can't transport the scooter. So
yeah, and again, I think that just comes to timing. I think that as the industry changes, we're, interestingly enough, I found out from some higher ups at Princess, that their market's changing rapidly, and it's no longer the older senior citizens on Princess. It's getting younger and younger. Their average age has dropped to 15 years. And, people like to joke, oh, they've all died. Well, no, they've moved on to Cunard and Holland America. And as the cruise lines change, as the system evolves, they're finding, this appeals to me more. And Princess is now slowly, and not in a bad way, but they're morphing more into Norwegian, where they're offering more activities for people. Just as we've seen with Princess Plus and Princess Premier, they're starting to segment their packaging. And we're going to see a little bit more of that come from our more upper tier cruises. And even my own experience with Princess, it wasn't, I was surprised that there were more seniors on my last Norwegian cruise than my Princess cruise. And then I had a friend on Holland America, and a whole different story. She's like at 8:00, everyone's asleep. And then as my
and I don't find it that way on Holland America.
And then on MSC, we were just on Divina a while ago, and with some friends, and they're closing the clubs at 4 a.m. Whereas on most American lines, it's like, oh, sorry, it's midnight, time to go to bed, and they're out till 4 a.m. And the Galaxy Lounge, it's still hopping at 4 a.m. So, and I think that this goes back to the market segmentation of the cruise lines. We're going to see some continual changes. And I think even within the ports, especially with the age and demographic changes, there's a bigger push in Juneau now for smaller ships. We now have MSC launching the Explorer line, which is their super high-end, 150 passenger lines, along with Seabourn and Oceania. So I do think that, I hate to tell people just to wait, but this goes back to even social change. You look back 20 years ago, wow, why was this an issue 20 years ago? And I think that, as we move forward, things will change both, without really having to have government regulations, but just as people see the demographic, because just like with you, people don't want to be left at the dock. Yeah. And so I think it's just a matter of time, as well as trying to convince, the powers that be, hey, here's what we need. Especially for, the ever-changing cruise demographic. Even Carnival. People talk about Carnival being the party ship. It was very subdued when we did us. God, who were we on last year? Splendor. And I was expecting, not Kathleen Gifford, out there on the sun deck. But it was a lot more subdued than we expected on Carnival. But again, that's the thing where people need to realize is Alaska is much different. People are coming to Alaska for a much different reason. The ships spend a lot longer in port. It's not, and I hate to say this being a Floridian, it's not like we're watching people run and miss the boat, like we would do in Nassau, which is always fun. So let's see who's going to be missing. We're all on our balcony cheering people on, as they either make the boat or don't. In Alaska, because you're in port longer, it's harder to miss excursions, because everyone is based on that. Not to say it doesn't happen. You get the red onion and red onion in Skagway, red dog here in Juneau. And I think that causes more people to miss a boat than an excursion, to be honest. And I see that a lot on the message boards. They're like, well, we want to book through the ship because everyone has a guarantee that they'll get us back. And, last year in all of Southeast Alaska, only 3 excursions missed a ship. And that's among all the big ports.
Right. All right. Now back to the whales. So I do have a couple of whale questions.
Sure.
Are they, I realize the Alaska season has dates, April to September. Are the whales up there the entire time, or is it better in some times of the season and not so good other times in the season?
We've got whales now. One of my friends is a captain with Allen Marine who caters to the cruise lines. They have the bigger boats. And that being said, they do a lot of fill-in for the Alaska Marine Highway, our ferry system. And so she was doing a run back out of Sitka and saw Flame and Cinderbang, which is one of the new baby calves. And, it was kind of took her by surprise. She's been up here for, I think, 12 years now. And, it was on her Instagram. And then another naturalist was out on a fishing boat in Sitka, and they saw some orcas. So some of the whales do stick around here year round, even in our crappy winter where it's, going between 30 degrees right now. And actually it's 34. We wake up, it's nice and snowy, and then by noon it's slush and rain and all that stuff. Yeah. But a lot of our whales split their time between, up here in the summer, and then they'll be in Mexico and Hawaii in the winter. A lot of times you will see the majority of them start showing up in April, and then end of September is when they make their migration south. And I hate to say that's like our prime season, but you'll see something. Here in Juneau, everyone offers a guarantee. Hey, we'll give you $100 if you don't see a whale. You'll see something. And just like in some of my pictures, and I think I even have a video, if we can show some of those, they catch you by surprise. Yeah. The captains know where they are most of the time. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist, when they come out of Auk Bay, you don't see much, they're kind of looking. But then once you hit, Lane Canal, there's a couple of places where it's always a shoe-in. There's always a whale or two. But the whales will either be right below you, as we call it, on top of you, even though it's a reversal.
All right, Nate, I'm gonna start this, and it's gonna mute us, so you have to unmute yourself to talk.
Okay.
Oh, that was a little short one.
Yeah.
Oh, that was okay. Let's try another one. And the camera's jumping around looking for another one. Yeah.
I don't know, you can sometimes see through the windows a little bit, it's flat, or you can walk through this area as well.
Oops. Yeah, and so with these, you'll get them either up close or far. But I don't know if you could hear all the clicking sounds, from the cameras. That's the thing is, you don't want to have your camera out, ready for a picture, and then by the time you get your camera out, you've missed it. And so make sure you already have your zoom preset. Have it on shutter speed. That way you can get a bunch of different pictures, and actually see what you get once you come back. And so like those two videos were on the Juneau Lighthouse Tour, which is the newest tour we have in town. It's a combo tour. And the weather is beautiful. That was middle of August, I think. And normally it's raining sideways. And that's why I tell people with our weather, it's hit or miss. And even if it's raining, it's still pretty nice out. And so I forgot what did I send you?
When does the really cold start setting in?
We're waiting for it now. I mean, it's 34 degrees here. I think it's warmer. I think it's warmer here than where you are. It's a dry cold, and I don't mean to dispel that to folks. I mean, it's funny. Even in July, it'll be 70 degrees, and we see people dressing like they're going to an igloo. And I think that's all very depending on your comfort zone. So like even for me, for the project we're working on, I'll be the only one in shorts, I think, on the ship. But for us, the weather starts to change in September. That's when it does take a turn south, and the temperatures average right about 50 degrees. And that's when the hot tubs get popular.
Actually, that's 50 degrees is doable. When I was in Juneau and when I was there in May last year,
mm-hmm.
and I went up Mount Roberts in a sleet and snowstorm.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was slick up on top.
Yeah, and a friend of mine who works on the Princess Rail out of Healy, which is near Denali, she sent me a picture of August last year, and it's like August 9th, and they had the train and 6 inches of snow. And so I think that you do need to pack for all types of weather. You are going to get wet. It doesn't matter. I just told someone, and I got belittled sadly on a Facebook group. I don't think they realized I'm Alaskan when I said just go to Walgreens and CVS and get the $5, $2 poncho, and just wear comfortable clothes. And because you're going to get wet, don't spend $300 on the REI, we call it Patagucci, rain gear and everything. You're going to get wet. Just get something that you're comfortable in. Don't wear blue jeans because once those get wet, they stay wet. So, we highly recommend like fishing type pants you can find at Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's for both men and women because those dry quicker. But if you look at some of these whale watching pictures, if you want to continue, all the boats have a covered area. You're in a cabin, and sometimes they're heated. A couple of them have fans on them. And so this is we're going a little out of order, but this is with Juneau Tours and Whale Watch. They also take you to the Mendenhall Glacier, and I think that's an important thing to look at is doing a combo tour. And then when you do a combo tour, they'll pick you up at the docks, they'll take you on a whale watch, and then after they'll drop you off at the glacier. And that's about anywhere from a 20-foot walk to miles. It depends how far you want to go. And what I like about Juneau Tours and Whale Watch is, you can be there for hours if you want. We just recommend people to eat before you go because there's no food vendors at Mendenhall Glacier. At the visitor center. You might be able to buy like a bag of chips and a soda at the Forest Service's visitor center, but there's no food vendors out there.
All right, somehow, Nate, the system has eaten everything else that I loaded. That's strange.
That's all right.
Sure, for sure. Okay, so we'll save some for next time.
And like I said, I can also do a screenshot on my end too. If that'll help. Let me see here. Yeah, that'll work. Let me try a screenshot on my end.
Okay.
Share screen. Tab. Let's see. Window. There we go. Okay. There we go. All right. So like on Juno Tours and Whale Watch,
Hang on, I got it.
they have a lot of them, in Alaska Tales and Allen Marine all have the same thing where, you've got a forward part of the vessel. You have your interior cabin, which seats anywhere from 30 to 40 people. Towards the back is where the bathroom is located, and up top you've got the another viewing deck, which is nice. And then this is with Allen Marine, and again, not trying to sound too horrible, but look at all those people. This is the company that handles all the cruise ships. And I don't know about you, but to me, that is not a vacation. When you're fighting with that many people, to actually get a good view, I just remind people you get what you pay for.
And what's the difference in price, Nate?
Actually, Juno Tours is one of the cheaper end because they don't deal with the cruise ships, because they don't do the add-on. They don't mark it up too much. This one I've seen on the ships go for anywhere from $149 to $189. And again, just look at all the people on the decks.
Yeah.
You are packed on there. I think this boat gets about 165 people on board. And they're loud. Again, the noise is different. Let's go back to Juno Tours and Whale Watch. Here is one of their boats. And here's the front. A much different experience. And this is where I tell people, that not every whale watch is created equal. Especially with the different boats compared to like the Beacon with Juno Lighthouse Tours, which is owned by Harva Marvs and Alaska Galore. Just a much different experience on their boats. And so they are a little bit more expensive with Juno Lighthouse Tours. And you've got more comfortable chairs because you're on the water longer. And that's where I just, I guess one of the points of the video is to let people know, hey, everything is different. This is on board. We talk about the benches on Juno Tours, which is nice if you're a bigger guy like me, like having a little more space. And they don't always fill it to 24 people. But like I mentioned earlier, I just want to highlight, towards the middle, you see the stairs to come down. And then if they know you're in a wheelchair, they'll put you in a boat where you've got a little bit more access to it. This is one of the Juno Tours buses, the pretty blue bus. We had two buses here in town that are blue. And I think they did that on purpose, because you see people say, oh yeah, go take the blue bus, hop the blue bus shuttle to the glacier. So one of them has animals on the side, the other one doesn't. So Juno Tours has some really nice pictures on this side. And they also were voted Best of Juno last year. And they do a good job. The cruise lines beg them for access to their product, and they still say no, just because of all the requirements that they add in there. And then this is out at, this is Nugget Falls at Mendenhall Glacier. And this is about a mile hike from the visitor center. Good news for folks like yourself. You can actually take a scooter out there. The trail is paved and or packed gravel.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so you're not necessarily stuck to the visitor center, which is, 3/4 of a mile away from this.
Yeah.
And you can walk right up to these waterfalls. To the right, there's a trail that goes down, and the sandy beach is right in front of it, which is kind of neat. And so that did survive. The glacier in the background is receding and changing. So every year, you see a little bit different view. This is from Juno Lighthouse Tours. This is actually at the top of the Sentinel Island Lighthouse. Again, this was a very lucky day because, again, you notice we're missing our infamous rain.
Yeah.
I tell people when the sun is out is just be happy. And so they are a combo tour. Again, they've already won a bunch of awards, even though they're a year out. And, there is... if you're in a scooter, you have a problem, but a wheelchair, no. And I've seen people in wheelchairs on this tour. And some folks just stay on the boat, to be honest, because they don't, depending on the tide, you're going to be walking up a pretty high ramp. But this is now open to the public. Well, it's always been open to the public. It just hasn't been accessible. And so this is one of the lighthouses between Skagway, Haines, and Juneau, that dot line canal. And so you can actually now go there. And then actually I need to back up a little bit. Let me pause my sharing for a second. Actually, no, I think we can. So now with the whale watching, what's interesting is there's a website called happywhale.org or happywhale.com. And you'll notice that if you go on a whale watching trip that the naturalist can actually identify the whale. And they do that based on its fluke, which is its tail. And so that's always the important part for people to grab when they go whale watching, is that's how they identify these guys. And yours truly even was the first to get a picture of a, one of Flame's calves. And when you go on the website, you upload the picture of the fluke to the to this website, and then other people tag it and they track it, so you can see exactly where the whale has been. And so that's why when you're going out whale watching, they can tell you exactly which whale is what. So this is Bolt. This is the guy who caused one of those 3 excursions to get late, because Bolt's a baby calf. He's older now, but he would see the bottom of a whale watching boat and think it was its mama.
Oh.
And so you're not allowed through whale sense. You can't be running your motor within 100 yards of a whale. And so here's a lucky picture someone got by having the rapid fire on, where you can actually see and capture the whale breaching. And normally by the time, you hear it, it's too late. And again, here's the back of the fluke. So this is how they can identify the different whales based on the different markings, the shapes. Each fluke is completely different. And so that's why
never knew that.
Yeah. So that way, when you're going to whale watch, you're going to hear, from the different captains, oh yeah, this is so-and-so, this is, and they all get named. And so that's, every whale watch is different. Again, you're also going to see these guys.
Yeah.
Probably if I ever get reincarnated, that's what I want to be. I want to be a harbor seal, just hang out on a buoy the whole time.
Nate the seal.
Yeah. And then it's rare to see bubble net feeding. And this is what these guys are doing is it's kind of like a game that the whales play with fish. You don't really see this a whole lot. And especially on a whale watching boat, unfortunately, this is, if you do see it, consider yourself lucky. And again, we do get orcas up here. This isn't SeaWorld where they come out and dance and all that stuff. And again, this is outside Juneau. These are people's homes. These are not lodges. This is right outside where I live in Auk Bay. And I know that people have always said, do I need to do whale watch? Yeah, because you get a lot closer. These homes are about a mile away from this breach. And same thing with the ships. You'll see them, but you're not going to be nearly as close to a whale than if you're actually on a whale watch. And again, back to the whole thing is, make sure you have rapid fire on your phone. Make sure you have room for it. And then also in terms of the weather, the whales actually like the rain. So as they hear the pitter patter on the water, it doesn't scare them away. It actually, they'll actually come out and do more. Because whales actually, I think they sleep 2 hours a day, where they're able to turn half their brain off and they just sit out there and float like a log. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's your phone.
Yeah, they don't realize it's early in the morning here. And to get back to rapid fire, just like with this one, I think the girl who took this, the woman, this was one of about 100 photos that she took. And you'll get a good photo. It's just a matter of making sure you have it aimed right, you're ready, and you got your hand on the trigger.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll get it. You'll see something. Like these are a collection of friends and I. by the whale watching. And this is towards later in the evening. In the summer, of course, the sun doesn't technically set; just turns into a dusk. But they're out all hours of the day.
Yeah.
And then for special promotion for your listeners and watchers, they can go to the website and enter promo code Chillies23, and you'll save 10% off your Juneau whale watching. So we have discounts available with Juneau Tours and Whale Watch, where you can either do the whale watch, which is $145 less 10%, or the combo tour is $165. And if you want to do the more premium whale watch, that's with Harvard Marvel Alaska Galore. I think that's like $159. And then the half-day Lighthouse tour with whale watch is $219. And these are locally Alaskan owned and operated companies, and they're here year-round. These aren't folks who just come up for the season.
Yep.
And so when you see Buy Alaska on any of our options with Alaska and Yukon Tours or anything we do, we do that to highlight the folks who are here year-round and deal with our not so optimal weather. And so, for your, for the folks who follow you, use code Chillies23 at our website through this link, and they can see the 4 different options we have. And then, of course, this is leading into an announcement, later this week we'll have. But as we highlight different Alaska excursions, during the winter, we'll be giving promotions also on those. So I think next week we'll talk about the sled dogs. And then, of course, we'll talk about different options you have in Ketchikan and Sitka, as well as in Seward. We do have some discounts with Major Marine, especially for folks who are coming to Alaska, ending up in Seward or Whittier. Because you've got all day if you're hanging around there until the train.
Yeah.
Because the train doesn't run, the train typically leaves at night. And so you've got all day in Seward and Whittier, it seems like.
All right. And we might just have a little announcement coming this week.
Yeah.
In the next day or so.
Yep.
Needless to say, Nate and I have been working on a little project. So stay tuned. More to come.
Good deal.
All right, Nate. As always, my friend, thank you for the time, the knowledge, the pictures, the clips, everything.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's like I said, got up a little bit early, but that's all right. It's Monday. So
yes.
Luckily we don't have
30 in the morning in Alaska.
Yeah. Head to the office. Thankfully, the airlines didn't do too many schedule changes. I do tell people always, if you didn't book a travel agent, check your app and check it constantly. But this weekend they rolled out a schedule change. Nothing too major. No one misconnected. And that's pretty much what we do every Monday. Is we get the airlines load their changes on Saturday night, Sunday morning, and then we get those up. We get alerts, so we have to go through and juggle everyone's trips. So that's why if you do know any travel agents, Monday's the day you need to bring them cookies, wine, whiskey. Some weeks are better than others. Some weeks are worse than others. But yeah, sadly, that's my getting up early on Monday is okay. But yeah, we'll talk again soon, and
right.
Hopefully have an announcement to make.
Okay, Nate, thank you very much. And again, till next time.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for joining me on Chillie Chats. We'll see you again. Thanks, Nate. Hi, that was Nate Valliers. Man, as always, that's good stuff. A couple other things to check here before we go. My buddy Justin, Mr. Bucket List, he crossed off one of his yesterday as he was at the Daytona 500. That was pretty cool. And this is from Hot Air Tom over there in, I forget where he was. right, that was from Hot Air Tom, and that'll take us right up to this.
Do you have a bad back, bad hips, bad knees, or any other mobility issues? Think about Scootaround. For scooters, walkers, wheelchairs, even oxygen needs, delivered right to your cabin. Scootaround for all your mobility needs on your upcoming cruise.
And I'll be back with today's news right after a quick word from one of our network sponsors. All right, the news is going to start off today with a ship that I was on, Serenade of the Seas. Saturday's departure of Serenade of the Seas was delayed by an hour due to a medical debarkation from the previous cruise and a delayed return home. What that meant was that on the February 11th sailing, which was a 7-night Bahamas cruise, they had a guest that needed to be debarked during the voyage in Miami. Royal Caribbean cruise ship also had to remain docked at Port Miami until they were cleared to depart before the ship could return to Tampa. To safeguard the privacy of the passenger and their family or traveling companions, no further details about the nature of the medical debarkation have been released, but they were late getting going out of Tampa. This one, folks, boy, this one bothered me. I had some issues with this. A Norwegian cruise line has sent out a letter to guests who were booked on the February 19th cruise aboard Norwegian Prima to inform them that 2 guests who sailed on the ship late last year were diagnosed with Legionnaire's disease. Although the guest diagnosis was likely not associated with their time aboard the ship, the cruise line is working with the CDC to support their investigation efforts. The letter provides further information about the disease and how to recognize its symptoms. Norwegian Cruise Line has also provided details on how to handle the situation if guests experience symptoms of the disease during their cruise. It's implausible that Legionnaire's disease was present on board the Norwegian Prima for several reasons. First, the ship was brand new. She entered service in August of 2022, giving it little time to cultivate Legionella bacteria. This is important because Legionella bacteria can grow in water systems that are not properly maintained, though they haven't had a chance to not properly maintain it. I just don't understand why Norwegian is sending a scare letter out to somebody sailing now on something that probably didn't happen last year. That one makes no sense to me. I guess it's a good thing I don't run a cruise line. All right, our buddies over in Dover, that's over in the UK, with new waterfront facilities such as a stunning marina expected to open soon, plans for future expansion of the terminals, and a sustainable operation that is leading the way in the cruise industry. Dover's history, dating back 400 years, has a modern twist. There has never been a better time to witness the iconic backdrop and culture of the white cliffs of Dover Castle, alongside a fresh experience that reflects the changing world. Holland America's Rotterdam and Zuiderdam, Coral Princess, Penant's Lee de Monterville, and Viking Neptune are all preparing to visit Port Dover for the first time in 2023. Carnival and Saga continue to offer turnabout calls, and TUI is returning as a port of call. Sonia Limbrick, head of cruise at the Port of Dover, said the port was going through one of the most exciting transformations in its history with a brand new brand and identity, all with a focus on the future. Congratulations to our friend over at Dover. We don't talk about Dover very much. We're always talking about Southampton. Well, Southampton's not the only game in town anymore. The Disney Magic kicked off its program of cruises out in New Orleans this weekend. After repositioning from Galveston, the Disney Cruise Line vessel is set to offer a series of 4 to 6 night itineraries departing from the Louisiana port. Sailing 5 nights, the first cruise sails to the Western Caribbean. Extending through mid-April, the New Orleans program comprises additional short cruises to Mexico, as well as a 6-night itinerary to the Western Caribbean in March. Following the series of cruises out in New Orleans, the Disney Magic is set to reposition to San Juan, Puerto Rico in May. And finally, this morning, folks, and this is a very sad story, both for everybody involved and for me. It's with deep sadness that we share the news of losing yet another dear friend who departed way too soon. Gene Moy Moy Young was a cruise director on many MSC cruise ships. Most of all, he was an outstanding person full of positive energy that he spread among all the people he met. His passing is something that many on MSC are struggling to come to terms with. Passed away unexpectedly in Miami on Friday. I actually sailed with Gene on the Seascape, and then earlier in the year on Seashore. During his time as cruise director, he brought in top ratings, and passengers always had a great time. Gene went out of his way to make everyone's life aboard ships easier. He was a generous and caring man full of life. Many will miss him incredibly. Gene was passionate about working as a cruise director, his guests, his team, and his industry. Before joining MSC, Gene worked for Holland America, Victory, and Stiletto Entertainment. So his friend Rebecca Law shared the news. And of course, our condolences go to Gene's family and to all the friends who worked with him all these years. A life gone way too soon from this earth. May you rest in peace, Gene. All right. Let's go over and see who's with us in the chat room today. Again, my thanks to Nate for his time this morning. Nate and I plan not only to do something together soon, which we're going to talk about very soon, but we're going to probably feature Nate with on a number of shows throughout the spring, getting ready for the season up there on excursions that are available when you're in Alaska. Mike's with us. Nikki's with us. Hi, Nick. Amy's here. Good morning, Amy. Bright and early. Sonny's with us down in Mississippi. The Masked Cruiser is here. Greetings from parts unknown. Please be sure to give the live stream a thumbs up and appreciation for this interesting interview. Thank you very much, Mask. MC. Still don't know what to call you, but that's okay. Well, watching in Alaska is the best. Beautiful, quiet, serene, and whales, nothing better. I agree. Here's Mr. Bucket List. Justin, can you hear anything today? I know you had earplugs for the race yesterday. Justin says he loved Juneau. I love Juneau too. I enjoyed that. My only problem with Juneau was after I went up, it froze my butt off in the sleet and snow up on top of Mount Roberts. I tried to go into the Red Dog Saloon, and they wouldn't let me in with the scooter. They said I had to transition into a chair, and they parked the scooter out back. I said, no, you won't. That ain't going to happen. So I never did make it. I have a drink in the Red Dog Saloon. I did go to another facility in Juneau for an adult beverage or 3. Sonny says, I did both types of whale watching, big boat with too many people and smaller boats. Go on the smaller boats for sure. Yeah, I was surprised. There's not that much difference in price. Why wouldn't you go on a smaller one? So, Mask says, MC is perfect. Okay, from now on, you'll be MC. Thanks a lot, Mask. Always, we appreciate that. Thanks for the discount promo code. We'll see you in Alaska soon. Yeah, well, I'm definitely, everybody knows I'm going in June. It might just be that I'll be going again a little later in the season. That is an excellent possibilities. All right, guys, that's going to wrap me up for today. As always, we appreciate the thumbs up. That helps the channel out a lot. If you have not subscribed, please consider doing so. The bell notification tells you when I go live or when a new video is posted. Tomorrow, and I have not heard from him this morning because I've been busy trying to figure out what's wrong with my messenger system. I've got to get that straightened out today. But anyway, I hope to have Johnny Quinlan on tomorrow. I got to make sure I can get in touch with him. So we'll have to see about that one. I'm not sure what's wrong with Messenger. Anyway, that's going to wrap me up for today, folks. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, think about cruising, and hopefully one day soon we'll all get together on the high seas. Maybe some of us will get together on the high seas in Alaska. You guys have a fantastic day. Later, y'all.
I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. So if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner. Hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chillie's Cruises.